Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever gotten a traffic ticket and just thought, I'll just pay it, get it over with?
Happens all the time.
Well, in New York State, that fine. It's often just the starting line for something way more complicated. Understanding that whole system is, well, it's critical if you want to keep your driver's license.
Absolutely.
So today we're doing a deep dive into Chapter 2 of the New York State Driver's Manual. This is where they spell out exactly how the state can, take away your permission to drive.
That's right. We've pulled the key stuff right from the official NYDMV guide. And our goal isn't just like reading off a list of rules.
No.
We want to really get into what happens when you break them. Suspension versus revocation. I mean, what's the real difference? How does that point system actually work? All those fees people don't expect.
And what happens if you just ignore a ticket?
Exactly. Think of this as like getting the roadmap so you can navigate the rules and, hold on to that driving privilege. It's vital.
It really is. Because honestly, getting your license is just step one, keeping it. That takes knowing a whole different set of rules.
Totally different ballgame.
It's not just about, watching your speed right now. It's understanding how even one little violation can snowball way down the line. So let's get into the basics, the foundations the DMV sets out.
Okay, so the manual starts with two really key terms. They sound kind of similar, but the outcomes, very different. We're talking suspension and revocation.
And that difference is massive, right? So suspension, what's the core idea there?
Suspension means your license, or maybe just your privilege to drive in New York,
Yeah.
is taken away temporarily. It's like a timeout.
Okay.
Your driving privilege is gone for a set period, and once that time's up, assuming you do whatever they require, like maybe paying suspension termination fee,
Oh, there's a fee.
often, yeah, then you can get it back.
So suspension is like hitting the pause button?
Good way to put it. Yeah, revocation, though, that's more like hit and delete.
Whew. Okay.
It means your license is straight up canceled. It doesn't just come back automatically. If you get revoked, you have to physically reapply to the DMV for a brand new license.
After the revocation period's over.
Right, after the time is up. And there's another fee for that, a reapplication fee. And here's the kicker. Getting approved for that new license, not guaranteed.
Really?
Especially if your driving record isn't great, they can definitely say no.
Wow. So delete, and you might not get to start over easily.
That nails it. And the manual also makes it really clear this whole system doesn't just apply if you have a New York license. It also applies to your driving privilege.
Driving privilege, what does that cover?
That's for, say, drivers from other states who are driving in New York, or even folks who don't have a license yet, but they're trying to get their first one here.
Ah, so you don't even need the plastic card from NY for them to take away your right to drive here.
Exactly. And if that privilege gets suspended or revoked and you drive anyway, the penalties are just as tough as if you had an NY license that got yanked.
Got it. Okay, basics down. Now, the manual really seems to focus in on new drivers, especially the younger ones, the junior operators with permits or licenses. Seems like the state watches them really closely right from the start.
Oh, absolutely. For junior operators, yeah, the consequences kick in fast. You could face a 60-day suspension for just one serious traffic violation.
And serious means?
Anything that carries 3 or more points.
Yeah.
Or you could get suspended just for racking up 2 other violations, even if they're less serious.
One big mistake or 2 smaller ones. Boom, 60 days off the road. That's pretty quick.
It is. And it gets even tougher if they've already been suspended or revoked once. If they get their license or privilege back, and then within the first 6 months after getting it back, they commit another serious violation, 3+ points, or 2 other violations, that jumps up to a 60-day revocation.
Oh. So mess up again right after getting back on the road, and it's not just a pause, it's delete. Canceled.
That's it. And the manual flags some specific mandatory suspensions for junior drivers too, like 120 days, automatically, just for texting or using a cell phone while driving.
120 days, that's harsh.
It is. Plus, it reminds you, if you have a junior permit, you need to hold it for at least 6 months of actual driving time. Any time it was suspended or revoked doesn't count towards that minimum before you can take your road test.
Right, they want real supervised practice, not just calendar time. Okay, what about other folks getting a new license, like someone over 18 getting their very first license, or maybe someone getting it back after it was revoked before?
Yeah, there's a different setup for them. It's called a probationary period. If you're 18 or older, just got your first license, or you're getting it back after revocation, you start out on a 6-month probation.
6 months probation. Okay. What kind of trouble gets you dinged during that time?
During that first 6 months, if you get convicted of certain specific things like DWAI, driving while ability impaired by alcohol,
Yep.
or speeding, reckless driving, following too closely, getting into a speed contest, or just any 2 other traffic violations, your license gets suspended for 60 days.
So similar kinds of violations as the junior drivers, but it's a 60-day suspension, not revocation
Yeah.
at first?
Right, initially. But here's where it gets, well, a bit tricky and honestly really important to understand.
Okay.
When that 60-day suspension is over, you don't just get your normal license back. A new 6-month probationary period starts all over again.
Wait, really? So you serve the 60 days, then you're back on probation for another 6 months?
Exactly. It's like your standard license status gets paused and you restart that probation clock right after the suspension lifts.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then if during that second probation period you get found guilty of one of those same serious violations we listed or any 2 other traffic tickets again.
Let me guess. Revocation.
You got it. Revocation for at least 6 months.
So basically 2 strikes during probation, even if they're separated by that suspension, means you lose the license completely for a while.
That's the system laid out. And just to pile it on, if your license is restored after that revocation, guess what?
Another probation period.
You guessed it. Another 6-month probation period starts then.
Unbelievable. It really seems designed to, keep you under a microscope until you prove you can drive clean for a good long stretch, especially if you're new or had past issues.
That's definitely the vibe, yeah. And remember, during any of these probation periods for juniors or these other new drivers, that mandatory 120-day suspension for texting or cell phone use still applies.
Okay, that's a lot for new drivers.
Right.
What about just getting a regular traffic ticket for any driver? The manual has some really clear advice here.
It does. And it might be the single most important piece of advice in the whole chapter. Do not put off responding to that ticket. Follow the instructions right away.
Why is that so critical? What happens if you just, I don't know, toss it in the glove box and forget?
Big mistake.
Yeah.
Your driver's license will be suspended indefinitely.
Indefinitely, just for not responding.
Yep. Plus, you'll probably be found guilty automatically, a default conviction, without ever getting a chance to argue your side.
Wow, that's a huge penalty just for, missing a deadline.
It really is. The manual also explains where tickets get handled. If it's a non-criminal moving violation, like speeding, in the 5 boroughs of New York City, goes to a special place. The DMV Traffic Violations Bureau, the TVB.
Right. The city has its own system.
Yeah, it's like an administrative court, separate from the regular criminal courts. Everywhere else in New York State, though, traffic tickets go through the local criminal and traffic court for wherever you got the ticket: city, county, town, village.
Okay, so 2 different tracks. TVB in the city, local courts elsewhere. But the manual says you have the right to defend yourself, maybe get a lawyer in either place.
Absolutely. Your right to present a defense is protected in both systems.
Okay. Now, what about tickets you get when you're outside of New York? This feels like it could get messy, different state rules and all.
It can, yeah. And here's something that trips a lot of people up. Generally speaking, the New York DMV does not record most moving violations you get in other U.S. states if you're just a regular non-commercial driver.
Oh, really? So if I get a speeding ticket down in, say, Florida, it probably won't add points to my NY license for that 11-point rule?
Generally, no, not for point accumulation towards suspension. The exceptions they mention are convictions from Ontario and Quebec and Canada.
Okay.
But even those usually don't add violation points to your New York record itself. And this is the really crucial part.
Uh-oh, here it comes.
Your New York license will be suspended indefinitely if you fail to answer a moving violation ticket in almost any other state.
Wait, what?
Yeah. There are only a few exceptions listed.
Yeah.
Alaska, California, Michigan, Montana, Oregon, Virginia, and Wisconsin. But pretty much anywhere else.
So if I get a ticket in, Pennsylvania or Jersey and I just ignore it, New York will suspend my license until I deal with the Pennsylvania or Jersey ticket.
According to the manual, yes. Indefinitely suspended until you show the New York DMV proof that you've satisfied that other state's ticket, paid it, went to court, whatever it takes.
That is, wow, that's a huge takeaway. Ignoring tickets anywhere is just a terrible idea.
Absolutely terrible. And it works the other way, too. Because of agreements between states, except those few exceptions, again, if you're from another state and you ignore a New York ticket, your home state will probably suspend your license.
Okay, so it's reciprocal for ignoring tickets. What about actually getting convicted out of state for something more serious, like alcohol or drugs? Do those follow you back?
Oh, they definitely do.
Yeah.
If you're over 21 and you get convicted of DUI or DWI in another state
Hmm.
or in Ontario or
Right.
Quebec,
Yeah.
your New York license faces a mandatory revocation. Minimum 90 days, could be up to 6 months.
So alcohol and drug offenses definitely cross state lines when it comes to your NY license.
They do. And if you're under 21, it's even stricter. The manual says any conviction for any alcohol or drug-related driving violation, even out of state, means a minimum 1-year revocation of your NY license.
1 year minimum for anything under 21.
And if it's specifically an alcohol conviction, the revocation is at least 1 year or until you turn 21, whichever is longer.
That whichever is longer thing, again, for younger drivers.
It's a key factor, and the manual adds, New York will revoke your license and your vehicle registrations no matter where you were convicted, if it's for something really serious like criminal negligence, homicide, or assault with a vehicle that causes someone's death.
Right. The most severe stuff has universal consequences. Okay, so now the manual gets into specific violations that trigger what it calls mandatory suspension or revocation. These are the automatic license losses, right?
Exactly. These are the offenses where, if you're convicted, the law says your license must be taken away for at least a certain amount of time. We can kind of group them to make sense of it. First up, alcohol and drug violations.
Okay, what are the minimums there? Lay them out.
All right. Aggravated DWI that's of high BAC, 0.18 or more, minimum 1-year revocation.
1 year, yeah.
Standard DWI, 0.08 BAC, or higher minimum 6-month revocation. DWAI, driving while ability impaired by alcohol, that's the lower level one,
Yeah.
that's a 90-day suspension. DWA drug, impaired by drugs, is a minimum 6-month revocation. And like we said, an out-of-state DUI gets you at least 90 days to 6 months revocation.
The manual mentions something about boat or snowmobile operator under 21 facing similar penalties for drinking, too.
Yeah, they apply similar standards across different types of operating privileges for underage drinking. Okay, next big category, chemical test refusals.
Refusing the breathalyzer or other tests.
Right, refusing to take a breath, blood, or urine test when the police ask. And refusing can sometimes hit your license harder up front than failing the test.
Oh, so.
Well, for drivers over 21, a first refusal means a minimum 1-year revocation. Automatic.
1 year just for saying no.
Yep. And if you're over 21 and you refuse, and you've had a prior refusal or an alcohol drug violation within the last 5 years, that minimum revocation jumps to 18 months.
Wow, 18 months minimum if it's happened before recently.
Exactly. Now, under 21, first refusal is also a minimum 1-year revocation. A second refusal while under 21 means revocation for at least 1 year or until age 21, whichever is longer.
There it is again.
And under the zero tolerance law, that's for drivers under 21 with any detectable alcohol, like 0.02 to 0.07 BAC, if they refuse the test. Minimum 1-year revocation for that, too.
Okay, speaking of zero tolerance for under 21s.
Yeah, the manual lays out more rules just for them. We mentioned it briefly. But any conviction for any alcohol or drug violation while under 21. Minimum 1-year revocation first offense.
Any conviction.
Any conviction. Second offense while under 21. Revocation for 1 year or until age 21, whichever is longer. And this applies even if the court treats them as a youthful offender or if the conviction happened out of state.
So, bottom line, for anyone under 21, any alcohol or drug driving offense is incredibly serious for your license. Minimum year off the road.
Huge consequence.
Yeah.
And the zero tolerance law itself, the one targeting that really low BAC,
Yeah.
0.02 to 0.07,
Yeah.
a first violation of that results in a 6-month suspension. A second zero tolerance violation, that escalates to revocation for 1 year or until 21, whichever is longer.
Okay. Moving away from alcohol and drugs now, what about speeding or other serious traffic stuff that triggers these mandatory actions?
Right. The manual lists several things that lead to a minimum 6-month revocation. One big one is getting convicted of 3 speeding violations and/or misdemeanor traffic violations within an 18-month period.
Misdemeanors are more serious than just regular tickets.
Generally, yes.
Cool.
Things like reckless driving can be misdemeanors. And that 18 months, it's counted from the date the violation happened, not when you got convicted.
So 3 speedings or serious offenses in a year and a half. License gone for at least 6 months.
That's the rule. Also, minimum 6-month revocation for getting 3 convictions for passing a stopped school bus within 3 years.
Okay.
1 conviction for leaving the scene of a personal injury or a fatal accident, or 1 conviction for participating in a speed contest, street racing.
What if you get caught racing twice?
Good question. If you get a second speed contest conviction within 12 months of the first one, The minimum revocation goes up to 1 year.
Okay. And insurance. Driving without insurance must be a big one, too.
Huge. Mandatory revocation for at least 1 year. This hits you if you operate or even just let someone else operate your uninsured vehicle, or if you're in a crash and you don't have insurance.
1 year minimum.
Yep. And the manual adds a crucial point. If your car insurance lapses and you're taking the car off the road, you have to turn in your license plates and registration to the DMV.
You can't just park it and cancel the insurance.
No, if you don't surrender the plates, you could face penalties, including suspension of your registration and maybe even your license.
That's really important for people to know. You have to formally tell the state it's uninsured and off the road.
Exactly. Finally, there's a category for indefinite suspensions or revocations.
Indefinite, meaning it lasts until you fix whatever the problem is.
You got it. This includes things like failing to file an accident report when you're required to, not paying court-ordered child support.
Wow, child support?
Yep. Or failing to pay your taxes, or not satisfying a court judgment against you that came from a traffic crash. In these cases, your license stays suspended or revoked indefinitely until you show the DMV proof that you've cleared up the issue.
And it really shows how they use your driving privilege as leverage for things totally unrelated to driving safety sometimes. Child support, taxes.
It definitely connects dots most people wouldn't expect. It's a powerful tool for the state to ensure compliance in other areas.
Okay, that covers a lot of the big automatic ways to lose your license. Let's switch gears to the point system. Everyone talks about points. What's the actual purpose in New York, and what does getting points really do to your license?
Right, the point system. Its main job is to flag persistent violators. Basically, drivers who are breaking traffic laws repeatedly in a fairly short amount of time. And that key time frame is 18 months.
So it's all about how many violations you rack up in that year-and-a-half window.
Exactly. And here's a super important detail. Points get added to your record based on the date the violation occurred, not the date you finally got convicted or paid the ticket.
Oh, that's huge. So a ticket you got like 14 months ago could suddenly push you over the edge if the conviction just came through now.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It can catch you by surprise if you're not tracking violation dates. The way it works is if you pile up 11 or more points within any 18-month period, the DMV automatically sends you a notice saying your license is going to be suspended.
Okay, 11 points in 18 months triggers a suspension notice. You get a hearing for that though, right? Can you go and explain, like, I really need my license for work or something?
Nope. That's a really common misunderstanding. The DMV hearing for an 11-point suspension, it's very, very limited. You can basically only go to argue that the convictions on their record aren't actually yours, like mistaken identity. You cannot refight the original tickets, you can't explain why you were speeding, and you can't ask them to waive the suspension because it'll cause hardship.
So it's just checking if the paperwork is right, not revisiting the actual offenses or your situation.
Exactly. It's purely administrative. Are these your convictions? Yes. Okay, suspension proceeds. The manual gives a table showing points for different violations, which helps see how quickly they add up.
Yeah, let's hit a few key examples. Speeding, for instance. It's not just one value, is it?
No, it depends how fast you were going over the limit. 1 to 10 miles per hour over. That's 3 points.
Okay.
11 to 20 overs is 4 points. 21 to 30 over is 6 points. 31 to 40 over is 8 points.
8 points. Getting close.
Right. And if you're convicted of going more than 40 miles per hour over the limit, that's 11 points, all by itself.
Wow. One ticket, if it's fast enough, can trigger that suspension notice immediately.
Instantly. What about other high-point ones people might run into? Reckless driving is 5 points. Passing a stopped school bus, also 5 points.
School bus is serious.
Very. Using a cell phone or any portable electronic device while driving, that's another 5 points now.
5 points just for being on your phone. Yeah, that'll add up fast towards the 11.
It definitely contributes. Some others. Inadequate brakes are 4 points. Unless it's your employer's vehicle, then it's 2. Following too closely, tailgating, that's 4 points.
Okay.
Things like improper passing, unsafe lane change, driving left of center, going the wrong way down a one-way street, those are typically 3 points. Running a red light or a stop sign or a yield sign, also 3 points.
3 points seems common for moving violations.
Yeah. Failing to yield right of way is 3 points. Railroad crossing violation is 5 points. Leaving the scene of an accident that only involved property damage or maybe hitting an animal, that's 3 points. And pretty much any other moving violation listed gets 2 points.
So it ranges from 2 points up to that automatic 11 for really excessive speed. Now, the manual mentions these point reduction courses or defensive driving courses. How do they factor in?
Right. The Point Insurance Reduction Program, PIRP. Taking a DMV-approved course like that can help your record. It can subtract up to 4 points from the total the DMV uses to see if you've hit that 11-point suspension threshold.
So if I have, say, 9 points, I take the course. The DMV then calculates my total as 5 for suspension purposes.
That's how it works for the 11-point calculation, yes. Plus, taking the course can often get you a discount on your auto insurance, usually up to 10% on liability and collision for 3 years.
Okay, that sounds pretty good. Reduces points towards suspension, saves money on insurance. What's the catch?
There's some big limitations, the manual stresses. Completing a point reduction course cannot stop a mandatory suspension or revocation.
Like the 3 speeding tickets we talked about.
Exactly. If you trigger one of those automatic losses, the course doesn't help. It also can't be used like a credit for future points you might get. You can't bank the reduction.
Oh.
And maybe most importantly, it cannot prevent or reduce something called a driver responsibility assessment.
Okay. We definitely need to get to those assessments. So the course helps with the 11-point count and insurance, but doesn't get you out of the mandatory stuff or these assessments.
That's the gist. The manual's really clear on that. And remember, your insurance company might have its own separate point system anyway. And of course, every ticket comes with fines you pay to the court or the TVB, totally separate from DMV points or fees.
Right. Points and fines are 2 different things. Hey, the manual also makes a point of saying traffic crashes instead of accidents. What's the thinking there?
Yeah, they explicitly say they often use crash instead of accident because, in their view, crashes can usually be prevented. It shifts the focus, away from random bad luck and more towards driver behavior and responsibility.
Makes sense. Frames it as something avoidable. The manual also notes if you're involved in a fatal crash, you could lose your license after a DMV hearing, even if you weren't ticketed at the scene, unless the law specifically requires it.
Yes, another potential serious consequence just from being involved in a fatality.
Okay, let's talk money now. Not the court fines, but the specific fees and civil penalties the DMV charges. This sounds like where things can get expensive.
Oh yeah, this is where the costs really start stacking up, beyond just the ticket fine. If your license gets suspended for a fixed time, like 60 or 90 days, when that time is up, you usually have to pay a $50 suspension termination fee to get it back, and it's non-refundable.
$50 just to end the suspension.
Pretty much. Now, for that specific zero-tolerance suspension under 21, low BAC, it's steeper. There's a $125 civil penalty plus a $100 suspension termination fee.
Ouch. Higher costs for that one.
Yep. Now, if your license was revoked, canceled, in most cases, you can't even start the process of applying for a new one until you pay a $100 license reapplication fee. Also non-refundable.
$100 just to ask for a new license after it was revoked.
Right. Though they say that fee isn't required if the revocation was for driving without insurance or if you had certain conditional licenses.
Here.
But for most revocations, yeah, $100 up front.
Okay. The manual also brought up penalties from stop arm cameras on school buses. How does that work?
Right. That's from a 2019 law. Basically, school districts can put cameras on buses to catch cars that pass them when the red lights are flashing. And the key thing, the penalty goes to the registered owner of the car.
The owner, not necessarily a driver.
Correct. Doesn't matter who is driving. The owner gets the notice and the fine. First time is $250.
Okay.
Second time within 18 months, $275. Third time or more within 18 months, $300 each time.
Those can add up fast if someone's repeatedly ignoring school bus lights. Okay, and then there are these other civil penalties you have to pay before you can even apply for a new license after certain revocations, on top of the reapplication fee.
Yes. These are hefty penalties paid directly to the DMV before they'll even consider your application for a new license after specific serious revocations.
Which ones trigger these big penalties and how much are we talking?
Okay, if your license was revoked because you were operating without insurance or you were in a crash without insurance, that's a $750 civil penalty.
$750?
Well,
wow.
If the revocation was for refusing a chemical test, the penalty is $500. Or $550 if you were driving a commercial vehicle at the time.
Okay, $500 or $550 for refusal.
And if you refuse that test, and it happened within 5 years of a previous revocation related to alcohol, drugs, or another refusal, that civil penalty jumps to $750.
So minimum $500, maybe $750 just to get your application looked at after those specific revocations. That's a serious financial hit.
It absolutely adds to the overall cost. And then we get to maybe the most impactful financial consequence of all, the driver responsibility assessment.
As to DRAs, okay,
Yeah.
Explain these because I think they confuse a lot of people. Are they fines, fees? What are they?
They're assessments. There are additional payments you have to make every year for 3 years straight. They get triggered by certain convictions or by accumulating too many points. And critically, they are separate from and on top of all the fines, court costs, other DMV fees, everything else.
3 years of extra payments on top of everything. And what happens if you just don't pay them?
The manual's crystal clear. Fail to pay your driver responsibility assessment, and your permit, license, or driving privilege gets suspended. Again.
So not paying this extra assessment leads to another suspension. Okay, what triggers them and how much are they?
2 main triggers. First, convictions for alcohol or drug offenses, AG DWI, DWI, DWII drugs, or the combo DWAI alcohol drugs, or if you have an administrative finding for a chemical test refusal.
Right, the serious DWI type stuff or refusal.
Right, if you get hit with any of those, the assessment is $250 per year for 3 years in a row.
$250 a year for 3 years, $750 total just for that one incident on top of fines and other fees.
Exactly. That's the cost for those specific offenses. The other trigger is accumulating points. If you rack up 6 or more points from violations within any 18-month period.
6 points? That doesn't sound like that many.
It's not a high bar. 6 points in 18 months triggers an assessment of $100 per year for 3 years.
Okay, so 6 points equals $100 a year for 3 years, $300 total. What if you get more than 6 points in that 18 months, like 7 or 8 or 11?
Good question. For every point you get over the initial 6 points within that 18-month window, you pay an additional $25 per point each year for all 3 years.
Okay, hang on. Let's break that down. Example, someone gets 7 points in 18 months. What's their assessment?
Okay, 7 points is 6 points plus 1 extra point. So it's the base $100 per year for the 6 points plus $25 per year for that 1 extra point. Total, $125 per year.
For 3 years, so $375 total for 7 points.
Correct. Now, what about someone who hits 11 points, the level that triggers the suspension hearing?
Okay, 11 points. That's 6 points plus 5 extra points.
Right. So it's the $100 base per year plus 5 times $25 per year for the extra points. That's $100 plus $125. So $225 per year.
$225 a year for 3 years. $675 total. Just for hitting 11 points. On top of the suspension, the fines, the termination fee.
Exactly. It makes accumulating points very expensive over time. It's clearly designed as a major deterrent for repeat offenders or serious violations. The manual says this applies to cars, sometimes boats and snowmobiles too. Again, they emphasize that point reduction course does not help you avoid or reduce this driver responsibility assessment.
Right. So the course helps with the 11-point suspension trigger, but gives zero relief from these DRA payments.
None whatsoever, according to the manual.
Okay. Last big topic, and it sounds grim, driving while suspended or revoked.
Yeah, this isn't just breaking a rule. The manual makes it very clear. This is a criminal offense.
Not just a traffic ticket, but a crime.
Yes, and the penalties are mandatory. We're talking mandatory fines starting at $200, going up to $5,000, and mandatory jail time or probation.
Mandatory jail or probation. That is serious.
Extremely serious. Plus, the vehicle you're caught driving could potentially be seized by the state and forfeited. Gone.
They can actually take your car away.
It's listed as a possible penalty. And it gets even worse. There are more severe penalties if the reason you were suspended or revoked in the first place was because of an alcohol or drug incident. And then you get caught driving while intoxicated or impaired again, while still suspended or revoked for the first one.
So doubling down on drugged driving while already suspended for it brings extra heavy penalties.
Extremely heavy. It signals a very high risk. The manual also points out severe penalties just for having a lot of suspensions for failing to answer tickets, like 10 or more. And if you have 20 or more suspensions for not answering tickets, you can face a criminal charge even if you weren't driving when they arrest you for that 20th failure to answer suspension.
Wait, you don't even have to be in the car if you've ignored that many tickets. Just having that many suspensions on your record is enough for a charge.
That's what it implies for the 20-plus suspension scenario. It really shows how incredibly seriously the state views just ignoring the system, ignoring those tickets and summonses.
Wow. It's like defiance itself becomes the offense at that point.
It seems that way.
Yeah.
They're determined to enforce compliance, even just with the administrative process.
Okay, well, that has been a seriously deep dive into this maze of rules New York uses for driving privileges. We've covered, let's see, the huge difference between suspension and revocation.
Yeah, pause versus delete.
The tougher rules for new and junior drivers, those tricky probation periods, the absolute necessity of responding to any ticket, even out of state.
Don't ignore those.
All the specific violations that mean mandatory license loss, broke down the point system, how it's calculated, what the points are for, and the limits of those reduction
Well,
courses.
right, they don't fix every
Talked
detail.
about crashes versus accidents, listed all those fees, termination fees, reapplication fees, those big civil penalties, and then the driver responsibility assessments, those multi-year payments.
Yeah, the DRAs add up.
And finally, the really severe criminal penalties for driving while suspended or revoked.
Looking at it all together, what's really striking is how layered it is. It's not just, pay a fine, move on. It's this whole system. You've got points, tracking patterns over time, mandatory shutdowns for big offenses, penalties that get worse if you repeat mistakes, these significant financial costs like the assessments that stick with you for years, and then, yeah, criminal charges if you really defy the system, like driving suspended or just letting tickets pile up endlessly. It feels like it's all designed to track drivers, penalize them progressively, and eventually just take dangerous, persistent violators off the road.
So, thinking about all this, what does it mean for you, the listener? Knowing about this complex web of points, fees, assessments, escalating penalties, how does that change the way you think about maybe even a minor speeding ticket? What does keeping your license in New York really take beyond just trying to follow the rules in the moment?
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is it about, like, a fundamental shift? Recognizing that every single time you interact with traffic law, there could be these downstream consequences you didn't expect. Or is it more about needing to be super proactive, like constantly aware of your driving record, your points, making sure you don't accidentally stumble into one of these triggers because the system is just so complex?
Definitely something to think about next time you're behind the wheel. Or maybe see those flashing lights, or even just get an official looking envelope from the DMV in the mail.